Former Vice President Al Gore discussing rising CO2 levels in his documentary An Inconvenient Truth, which debuted over 16 years ago. The film was credited with raising global awareness about the dangers of climate change, and the years since have seen increasing extreme weather patterns. This week brought another round of record-breaking heat and triple-digit temperatures across the United States and Europe as wildfires rage, and London reached the hottest temperature ever recorded, 104 degrees in London. The former vice president joins me right now. Vice President Gore, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for inviting me, Jonathan.
So I want to ask you, obviously there's a difference between weather and climate, but how much of this extreme weather that we've been seeing do you think is effectively here to stay, is as a result of climate change?
Well, the scientists have predicted these extraordinary and catastrophic events for going on decades now. And the fact that they were dead right, maybe a little conservative even in their projections, should cause us to pay more careful attention to what they're warning us about now, Jonathan. They're saying that if we don't stop using our atmosphere as an open sewer, and if we don't stop these heat-trapping emissions, things are going to get a lot worse. More people will be killed, and the survival of our civilization is at stake. You know, if you'll permit me, Jonathan, behind me you see a picture from the International Space Station that shows how thin the atmosphere is. We're putting another 162 million tons into it every day, using it as an open sewer, and the accumulated amount now traps as much extra heat as would be released by 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs. That's why the heat records are being broken all the time now. That's why the storms are stronger, why the ice is melting and the sea level is rising, and why the droughts and fires are hitting us so hard, and so many other consequences. And they're predicting now up to 1 billion climate refugees crossing international borders in this century. We have got to act.
This is much of what you talked about for years, but certainly in An Inconvenient Truth. And we've heard from President Biden. He's called climate change an emergency. He's called it a clear and present danger, but he has stopped short from declaring a national emergency. What is your sense? Is it time for the president to declare that climate change is a national emergency?
Well, Mother Nature has already declared it a global emergency, and I'll leave it to others to parse the pros and cons of what an emergency declaration would lead to. But there are other things he can do right now. The EPA can take action to further limit emissions from power plants and from tailpipes, and the Supreme Court decision did not take all their power away. We could stop allowing oil and gas drilling on public lands, and he could appoint a new head of the World Bank instead of the climate denier that leads it now, appointed by his predecessor.
But he's also facing a challenge here. Really, the frontline issue going into the midterms is rising gas prices, part of it due to the war in Ukraine. And he's encouraged the Saudis to produce more oil. He's talked about expanding domestic oil production, getting more offshore oil drilling in the United States. I mean, you understand why he's doing this. They're desperate to get gas prices down, but isn't this counterproductive in terms of the climate agenda?
Well, we need to avoid confusing the short term with the long term. That's different from investing billions in new fossil fuel infrastructure and new oil and gas drilling that would not do anything to help the current crisis or to help gasoline prices for that matter. But would guarantee increased emissions in the years ahead. You know, the International Energy Agency has said that we should have zero new drilling for oil and gas reserves. We've already got enough to incinerate the planet. We're seeing this global emergency play out, and it's getting worse more quickly than was predicted. We have got to step up. This should be a moment for a global epiphany. And the voters and the publics in countries around the world need to put a lot more pressure on their political leaders. don't forget the fact that all 50 of the Republican senators have been against doing anything on climate, even though the vast majority of the American people want it.
Before you go, I'm sure you heard your name invoked in the latest January 6th committee hearing. Matt Pottinger talking about your speech conceding the 2000 election as really a model of how American democracy is supposed to work. What has your reaction been watching these hearings, and what kind of an impact do you think they're going to have?
Well, I would like to say that Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney and every single member of that committee have performed an amazing service to our democracy. I think these hearings have been the most persuasive and effective since the Watergate hearings so long ago. And I think we're seeing a huge impact on public opinion in our country, too. They've done an incredible job.
Did you ever, in the time since that speech that you gave, conceding an election, I don't need to remind you, you won the popular vote. You were within a few hundred votes in Florida. You were challenging, pushing for recounts. When it was over, you conceded, and then you presided over George W. Bush's electoral certification, the certification of his victory. Watching what you saw unfold, did you think back to that?
Well, of course, but all I did is what Winston Churchill once said about the American people. The American people generally do the right thing after first exhausting every available alternative. That's really all I did. The Constitution required what I did, and there's nothing really extraordinary about it. Was it personally difficult? Well, you know, when the fate of the country and the traditions and honor of our democracy are at stake, it's not really a difficult choice.
All right. Vice President Gore, it's great to talk to you again. Thank you for joining us on This Week.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.